Terrarian in the Dungeon, Chapter 12b, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. The crafting familias that made the city's weapons, armor, and potions, had a stranglehold on the adventurer side of the economy, along with the guild that controlled all the monster stones that allowed people to have clean water, and attuned monster stones that would fill all the monster stones machines that made life so easy, and thus controlled the civilian side of the economy. Think he can make me a pair of boots that will burn people? Bet quietly pondered as the little bar tale that Loki confirmed as truth stuck to him, as his boots were his very weapons and being able to burn opponents without needing to use magic to do so, could be useful. Plus, Loki was able to easily recognize who Jake's goddess was, as she had sessioned over here to the Twilight Manor several times to work on special rooms for herself and her executives. Bah, let's just go there tomorrow and find out, bet. Just don't pull your little strength is everything crap, haha. Gareth said jovially, and seeing Gareth and Bet making plans to do stuff other than prepare for the expedition, and Finn literally just threw his hands up in the air, sending Loki into a series of cackling laughter. Ah. Can I go as well? Ace asked, raising up her hand, and Riveria just facepalmed. Finn's eyebrow twitched at seeing the majority of his familia decided to play hooky, and for a moment he considered asking his goddess to tell everyone to stick to planning the expedition, but seeing the expression of interest on Loki herself, Finn realized he would need to push back the expedition a day. Because no matter if Finn was the braver and hope of the Paulum race, he still couldn't carry the Loki familia on his back if all his damned familia members decided to go mess around. Fine. Tomorrow we will be escorting Lady Loki to the store, Finn said, scratching out some details on some paperwork and then throwing his pen on the table. All of you get to bed at a reasonable hour, we are heading out early, that way we can still try to stick to the expedition timeline we outlined, Finn ordered as he hopped out of his booster seat and stomped out of the room. Wait, Captain, don't be mad. Tioni called out as she chased after her love interest out of the meeting room, while her sister Tiona finally snapped awake after curling up at the very start of the meeting. We are going grocery shopping in the morning, Tiona muttered, wiping the sleep from her eyes as she looked around to see what was happening. Ace shook her head and spoke as she stood up. Nope, we are going to a new magic shop apparently. Then Ace herself left the room as Gareth and Loki began sharing some of the vintages they had picked up in the last couple of days. While Loki's familia was a hubbub of action for the next few hours, the rest of the city tuckered down as it welcomed the night to welcome the new day coming. The next day I awoke bright and early so I could happily throw sachet super strongly smelling marijuana bushes into the back garden, that way the whole front area didn't smell like skunk. Then I nailed in my own decorated signboard that sachet made me for my own section of the shop to sell my own stuff. After nailing in the Terrarian's inventory signboard just below sachet's store signboard, I took to my corner of the store, which was like half of sachet's floor space, and it took a while to think up what I should sell here at the shop. Then I realized money, of course, was valuable, but rather than that, I needed and wanted adventures to go get my materials for me. Health Potion, 10,000 Valis Tier 1, Tier 2 25.000. Tier 3 is 50,000 Valis or half off if materials are traded, being the crystals from Lights in Rivera, and dust from Blue Papillo Butterfly. Mana Potion, 10,000 Valis Tier 1, Tier 2 25.000. Tier 3 50,000 Valis or half off if materials are traded, being 10 mutant or 5 aberrant monster stones of any monster. Then I just generally added a bunch more potions I could create through vanilla and modded Terraria that I could. Then I also quickly made some ultra simple accessories like some Hermes boots that I was already wearing and considering upgrading when I had some more obsidian, but I also put on display sandstorms in a bottle as well as anklet of the wind, and lastly some lucky horseshoes that will negate people's fall damage supposedly. Jake, the accessories are phenomenal, but you should consider putting up armor and weapons as that's the bread and butter for an adventurer, Seshet advised me after seeing me place all the little early game Terraria accessories on display, and seeing them even I knew they were kind of broken when you consider how fast just wearing some feral claws would make Ace's sword swings, as a flat 12% melee speed on her could be very important. So, taking Seshet's advice, I wrote down the armor sets I could make, their cost, and most importantly the special effects they would have. I then placed what I wanted for the armor sets, mostly harpy feathers and other deep dungeon materials I couldn't get, as the other crafting familias of Orario had such materials on lockdown, as there was never enough to go around. I mean, there was no way in hell I was getting past Rivera and such in the dungeon with how strong I was currently. I needed to amass a bunch of money so I could buy materials like rubies and such to make heart crystals to inflate my terrible endurance stat and countless other things. So just taking it easy and working on my crafting was the smart thing to do for now, especially building my contacts with other adventurers. With 2 hours left to the opening of the store, I got to work and rather quickly made 3 tungsten broadswords and a tungsten short sword as well as the tungsten I got from the dungeon last time. Then just for the hell of it, I decided to use some of the gold ore I got from the dungeon to make a trident. Then I made a note saying that magical weapons they must be commissioned. Because such things, at least for me, were going to be expensive and time-grating, but such a thing would be perfect for building up such contacts with the adventures of Aurario while I sold my potions for stupidly cheap. Alright Jake, get settled in for a nap. Seshet called out as I excitedly sat on my side of the mostly empty shop. My face twitched as I recalled how people knew Seshet's shop as the weed-smelling shop and that she had sold fewer things in this shop than you could count on one's fingers in the couple months she had been in Genkai. Then Seshet lived up to her prior words as she literally just held Sir Fluffykins in her arms while she pulled a blanket over herself, and she just lounged on her long couch that was raised up high into the air to allow the cat goddess to overlook the shop. Should I go make some flyers or approach other familias directly? I muttered frowning as I realized I may very well just be sitting on my ass as it's not like I had a reputation or anything that would attract people to change their lives using my products. But before I could literally just leave, the front door of the store was thrown open with a loud banging noise as a foot had clearly kicked it open with how said foot was still extending past the door. Chatter. Sir Fluffykins the first squeaked obviously freaking out, and as Bet Loga of the Loki Familia strutted in like he owned the place he was greeted by the shop's defensive measures made by Seshet. Overlooking the front door was a large pillar of extremely dense stone dropping down from above his head, which he stopped with a grunt of effort using both his hands but as his hands were up, that left his face and more importantly his groin available to be nailed by soccer ball-sized acorns being thrown at level 2 speeds. Fuck. Guys help. Bet screamed as he jumped backwards out of the shop, allowing the stone pillar to fall down to the ground and block the entrance. Then a loud howling noise rang out from around the store as the pillar being moved opened up the air holes and lines across the shop, so every breath of wind traveled through the store's perfectly crafted breathing tube like it was some kind of Amazonian death whistle. With this level of a racket the guild and Ganesha will be here soon. Seshet said cheerfully as I covered my ears to block out the ear-piercing screaming noises coming from the infernal acoustic system my goddess has created with the building. As I looked to her, wondering how my cat-girl goddess could even deal with this, I saw she was wearing a full fuzzy helmet that blocked off all noises and even had Mickey Mouse-like ears to shield and protect the leopard ears on her head. Seshet, knock off the racket, damn it. I heard a voice cry out from outside somehow, and Seshet made no sign that she heard the voice, which was fair seeing as she had a helmet on her head. I waved to her and as she focused on me, I said repeatedly that the person outside wanted you to shut off the noise. Fuck you Loki, I don't wanna. You owe me 50,000 valis to fix my door and any damage done to the ground when Bet activated the trap. Seshet yelled out and I heard Loki curse but couldn't make out the words and then I heard Bet yelp as he was seemingly hit with something. Fine, you damned Egyptian goddess. I will pay you the money, just open up. Loki yelled and then Seshet had me begin pulling on a pulley system that was hiding in the drapes surrounding the walls. The system was so good that I was able to lift up the large stone pillar even with my own meager strength.